What's up, everybody? It's your boy Kenya Koi, and we're back with another video. In today's video, we're going to be ranking the UFC champions based on how beatable they are. I'm going to go from the most beatable champion to champions who I just feel like aren't even possible to beat. They're like impossible to beat. For starters, let's start off with the most beatable champion in the UFC. Some people aren't going to like this opinion, and I'm sorry if you're a fan, but the most beatable champion in the UFC right now is Sugar Sean O'Malley. I feel like Sugar Sean O'Malley is a great striker, very impressive. One of the best strikers in UFC today, honestly, but he's in a division full of killers. He's in a division with people who happen to be very good at wrestling and grappling, which is something I feel like Sugar Sean does kind of lack in. Like, I know he got taken down 7 times by Peter Yan. There's better wrestlers in there than Peter Yan, trust me. For example, I feel like he'll struggle against Merab. I feel like he'll struggle against Umar. Someone like Corey Sandhagen's a good striker, but has been showing us kind of his wrestling side his last couple fights. I think he'll struggle with that fight as well. Even in the Yan rematch, Peter Yan outstruck him on total strikes. He took him down, controlled him for 6 minutes. He arguably won that fight. If they rematch again, I don't think the odds are going to be that good. So there's just so many people who I legitimately think just beat Sugar. Not necessarily all these are close fights. I really think most of these guys with wrestling heavy styles go in there and beat Sugar. So it's not that Sugar is a bad fighter. That's not why he's the most beatable champion. I think Sugar's a great fighter. It just happens to be he's in a very stacked division full of people with fight styles that happen to destroy his fight style, if that makes sense. It's never good if a striker is going against wrestlers who could even strike a little bit. Like, that's even more dangerous. Like, people like Merab, I feel like would just outwork him. Like, just use his wrestling to fatigue him and break him down over the course of the fight. People like Umar can mix up the stand-up and then shoot for takedowns and just make it a long night for Sugar as well. And then people like Corey, both longer ranger guys for the division, but I do think Corey has that wrestling advantage over Sugar. So even if they're evenly matched on the feet, the wrestling, even someone like Peter Yan in the first fight, we saw they were pretty even on the feet, and then the only significant difference was the wrestling and the control time. So Sugar, unless he gets his takedowns or takedown defense up, or if he improves his grappling or wrestling, it's going to be a problem for him to defend the title at all. I think he loses his title against his defense against Merab, but if he proves me wrong, there's still so much other killers to go. So this is why Sugar Sean O'Malley is the most beatable champion in the UFC. All right, the next most beatable champion, this is pretty close, Dricus du Plessis. The thing about Dricus is, like, he just looks so bad. He doesn't look that good. Like, when he fights, he just doesn't look that impressive. He's not really great at anything. At least Sugar Sean's great at striking, you know what I'm saying? Not really good at anything, if that makes sense, but he's okay at everything. So he could stand with you a little bit. He's not going to get knocked out or anything. He could wrestle with you a little bit. He's not going to hold you there for the whole time, but he could do everything to a decent amount, and he has power. We saw what he did to Robert Whittaker. That being said, I literally see no path to victory against him against Adesanya. Adesanya would just give him a hard fight. I think a Strickland rematch, a Whittaker rematch, both of them would give him a very hard fight. Khamzat Chimaev would go in there and literally maul him very quickly. That would be like such a one-sided fight. So, like, Dricus is also beatable. He's just not very impressive. I feel like in a couple years, we're going to look back in time and be like, Dricus du Plessis was middleweight champion? How did this happen? Where did we get here? So I feel like he's one of those champions who just were the right place at the right time. He fought Sean Strickland, who I also think isn't the most skilled champion in middleweight history. One of the shortest defensive, and not the shortest title reign in middleweight history. So yeah, he was right place, right time. He ended up going against a champion who wasn't that skilled, and he ended up beating him. But we'll see how he does against these other killers at middleweight, because there's so many other options. So I just don't see Dricus holding that championship for long. I think his title reign is going to be very short-lived. I'm glad he's holding on to it for as long as possible, because once he fights Izzy, that title is probably gone. All right, next up. Oh my goodness, I can hear the comments already. Don't cry, don't fear, but next up is Jon Jones. He's just beatable. I know you guys are going to be upset, but Jon Jones is the GOAT. In 2018, he did this. In 2016, he did this. In 2014, he did this. We are in 2024. I understand he's the GOAT. Trust me, he's my GOAT. He's the top of the GOAT list for me. I agree with you. I hear you there. There's a significant difference between being the GOAT and being the best in the UFC today. Like, I see people like Dana White saying, Jon Jones is pound for pound #1, right? He's delusional. They're just riding his GOAT legacies, and they're trying to bring it into modern day. Ducking somebody as champion should be illegal. I don't know who lets stuff like this happen. It should never happen. If you're an undisputed champion, fight whoever the businessman tells you to fight. Undisputed should always fight interim. Of course, that brings me to my point that I think Aspinall beats him. I think Aspinall's a very hard fight for him. I think Aspinall's hard to take down and control. Aspinall has better grappling and wrestling than someone like Cyril Gane, and he has just as good striking, if not better, and he has heavy hands. We've seen Jones go against people similar to his height and size, like Alexander Gustafsson, Dominic Reyes, Thiago Santos. He struggled to take them down and was forced to strike with them, and he was getting battered a little bit. Imagine the same thing happening with Tom Aspinall, except Tom Aspinall has way more power than Gustafsson, way more power than Reyes. It's going to be a hard time for Jones. Not only Aspinall, but I also think Sergey Pavlovich will give him a hard fight. People are going to be like, what? Sergey? He just got knocked out. Sergey also has heavy hands and a Sambo background. It's not going to be easy just go in there and take down Sergey. Not only Sergey, but let's talk about Jailton Almeida. Almeida. I said this in one of my other videos. Jailton Almeida's wrestling is elite, bro. Jones is not going to just go in there against Almeida and just, oh, let me just beat up Almeida, take him down and submit him like he's gone. That's not going to happen. If anyone takes down anyone in that fight, Jailton's going to take him down. These are stylistic nightmares for Jon Jones. I understand he's the GOAT. Trust me, I'm not trying to discredit anything. I already said this, so don't be in my comments crying, but Jones is the GOAT. How can you say this? I love Jones. This is 2024. He's not in his peak prime position. He's not in his prime. He's not at his best right now. You just got to accept that fact and accept the fact that Jones loses to some of these top heavyweights. Not all of them, but some of them. Next up, we got Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira is the next beatable champion. I feel like he's done a really good job in surprising me going up to light heavyweight and having so much success. I guess not cutting that weight and being a weight bully helped him out for the better. So good for Pereira. But I don't see a path to victory for him against someone like Ankalaev, because Ankalaev has that knockout power. He has that finishing ability on the feet, and he has that wrestling. So if he could somehow make it past Ankalaev, it's almost impossible to beat him. But even in the Jan Blachowicz rematch, I think Jan will give him problems. I know Jan has not been healthy, but if Jan comes back and fights Alex Pereira again, he was the closest to beating Alex Pereira at light heavyweight. I believe it was a split decision. Could have went either way, but yeah, Pereira got that one. But I do think Jan Blachowicz in a rematch will also give him a hard time. Someone who also had success was Yuri Prochazka in his first fight, backing him up against the cage. But I honestly don't really see Yuri beating him, I'll be real, because Yuri takes too much damage with leg kicks. But you never know. Yuri does have that one punch power. And then last point I'll bring up is Carlos Ulberg. I don't know how good he is yet, but if he goes in there and just dismantles Jamal Hill, he's probably going to give Alex Pereira a problem. So yeah, he's beatable. He's definitely beatable, but he's more on the unbeatable side, if that makes sense, as far as light heavyweights goes. Next up, we're coming towards the people who are kind of getting harder to beat, and there's only one or two people in the division who can give them a run for their money. And we're going to start off with Leon Edwards. Yes, I actually think Bilal has the skills and the skill set and the chance to beat Leon. However, I do think Leon's definitely more on the unbeatable side, given how he has beaten in the division already. He already beaten Usman twice, and he's beaten Colby Covington. And now it's really only Bilal who's that last style, that last breed of let me wrestle you and break you down and break your will. Like, that's how we've seen Leon slack so far in the Usman fight, breaking down Leon's will. That's how you beat Leon. You got to break him. You can't just beat him on point and, you know, cruise to a victory. You got to beat him, or he's just going to kick you and run in circles. But other than Bilal, it's really hard to beat him. But I do think Shavkat Rakhmonov is one of the few people at 170 who can maybe give him that little run for his money. So yeah, if it's not Bilal, it's Shavkat. And those are the big major two. Obviously, unless Islam Makhachev goes up in weight. But as far as 170, those are the big two. Maybe we can make the argument for MVP being a really good striker. How would Leon go against a good striker like a Ian Gary? I don't know, but I honestly think those two people, Bilal and Shavkat, are going to be the hardest thing for Leon. But if he gets past them, I really think he's close to unbeatable at 170. After Leon Edwards is pretty close. It's actually, like, you could even interchange these guys, but I do think Pantoja. The thing about Pantoja, he has some close fights, and he goes the distance a lot. It's hard to finish people at flyweight because everyone moves so fast, and the power they hit with isn't as significant as these heavier weight classes. He's been in there with every single good 125er, I feel like. Urseg, he already fought him. Royval, he already fought him. Moreno, he already fought him. Figgy went up in weight and moved away. So, like, I'm looking at 125. There's not a lot of people who can beat Pantoja. So, like, he's definitely more on the unbeatable side. However, big question mark is Kai Kara France and I believe Amir Abazi. How would he do against those styles of fighters? But other than that, like, he's pretty close to unbeatable. Like, this might be a sleeper pick because, like, a lot of people see Pantoja beating these top guys, but maybe you think, oh, it's a close fight. But he's winning. He's going the distance and showing he's the better fighter overall. He's the more complete fighter. So I do think Pantoja is more on the unbeatable side. If anyone could do it right now, I'm probably going to think it's Kai Kara France. But other than that, maybe Albazi, the wrestling. But I don't know. Pantoja is going to be very hard to beat. One thing I have noticed about Pantoja, he does get kind of tired in the later rounds and just tries to wrestle his way to a victory. I don't think that'll work against Kai Kara France or Albazi, but we're going to have to see. After Pantoja, the next unbeatable guy is going to have to be Topuria. Like, I'm looking at 145. I'm nodding my head. I'm like, okay, Ilya's probably beating every single one of you. Like, Ilya's just very complete. He has good wrestling if he needs to, good defensive wrestling. He has good grappling. He has heavy hands and good boxing. Like, we already saw what he did to Volkanovski. Volk literally owns everyone at 145. He was 13-0 before fighting Ilya at 145. So we know Volk owns that division. We saw him knock out Volk. The only one I really see giving Ilya a run for his money is probably Max Holloway. That's pretty much it. Maybe Movzar. We'll see how Movzar and Alger go if they end up fighting, because them two would make an interesting matchup, having heavy wrestling styles. How would Ilya deal with their wrestling? But I do think Ilya's wrestling is pretty good. But other than Max Holloway, for real, and I really feel like Max Holloway might have similar striking to Ilya, but one person has better wrestling and grappling, and that is Ilya. So it's going to be interesting. But I do think Ilya is definitely more on that unbeatable side. It's hard to beat Ilya. He's not easy to just out wrestle. He's not easy to outstrike. So we'll see how Ilya's title reign goes. He could be one of the future greatest fighters of all time. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. It's still early. And obviously, the most unbeatable champion in the UFC today Islam Makhachev. It's impossible to beat him. I'm literally like, it's not at 155. There's no one who's gonna beat him. Arman Sarukian, watered down version of him, does nothing better than him. Not gonna beat him. Justin Gaethje, nothing better than him. Dustin Poirier, no. Charles, no. He already beat all those people. Like, Islam's gonna go in there at 155, beat anyone he wants. After he beats Arman, I'm pretty sure he's going up to 170. So, and he's probably gonna beat Leon. I can't believe Leon is like the favorite going into the fight. He opened up as the favorite if Islam were to go up and fight him for the double champ. I don't know how. Like, striking wise, Leon has fought no good strikers. Islam actually fought like Dustin Poirier, Volkanovski. He fought some good strikers, bro. Even Charles Oliveira is a dangerous striker that he fought and he dropped. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like Islam Makhachev is not possible to beat. Obviously, the person with the best chance is probably Arman Sarukian, and Arman Sarukian's best chance is literally slim to none. He just does nothing better. He's not going to go in there and out-wrestle Islam. Is he crazy? And if he can't out-wrestle Islam, he's definitely not going to go in there and strike with Islam. Let's be real. Like, Arman has no submission finishes. Like, Islam doesn't got to worry about getting guillotine or anything. Like, bro, this guy Arman is going to get washed. So Islam, the most unbeatable champion, is not even close. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, bro. We're so close to 2K because you guys are the GOATs, bro. I love y'all, bro. Let me know what y'all think down below. Who y'all think's the most unbeatable champion and who you think's the least beatable? Let me know down below. I want to know what y'all think. And that's it for me. 2.